Welcome to Tradewinds Social Work New Zealand special webinar. My name's Ian McNally, and with me is Dee and Sarah. Now, so we can get straight into it. If you're watching this, more than likely you are looking to live and work in Melbourne as a social worker. But Dee, first off, why should I do that? And also, let's acknowledge we're Tradewinds. We want social workers to come and work through us in Melbourne. We're just going to tell lots of nice things about Melbourne. Is that the case? I mean, can we undercut it a bit and give people a bit of honesty about what the day-to-day is like, what the job market's like? But first off, start us off, Dee. If I'm a social worker in New Zealand, why should I come and work in Melbourne?
Yeah, look, so one of the things that I would definitely say for any Kiwis that are looking to make the move over is that Kiwis have a fantastic reputation here in the Melbourne workforce in amongst the social community service space. A lot of the work that you guys do and deal with, the problems there, they're all the same sort of problems here. And yeah, the training that you guys go through over there, it's really sought after and seen as highly regarded here. So when people do come over to Melbourne and get registered with Tradewind that have that 2+ post-grad experience, it really stands for something, and we're able to work off the back of that to help get employment options coming at you. But look, as far as Melbourne goes, it's a mighty big version of Auckland that has way better restaurants and pub scene and everything when we're allowed to be open. But look, Melbourne's a fantastic place. Great place to live, and there is a lot of opportunities within the social work space. Even more and more funding coming through sort of every budget for the social and community service areas of employment. So yeah, plenty of further opportunities to come.
And Sarah, we might talk a little bit later about why people should move to Melbourne specifically and why they should work with Tradewind. But what is the overall job market situation looking like in social work space in Victoria and in Melbourne specifically?
We are just so busy at the moment with opportunities. The market is really, really buoyant. We're definitely, I'd say, candidate short in various sectors, apart from as well as social work, So job opportunity here is definitely tenfold, depending on experience, and salary increase as well. Obviously, I know that that's most of the reasons, the main draw for people from New Zealand to relocate in the past. And it's definitely all about a higher salary and more job opportunities. So yeah, the candidates are definitely in a very good position coming to Melbourne.
So maybe in, towards the end of 2021, maybe a little bit later than that, 2022 going forward, how confident would you be of securing work for me if I was making the move from New Zealand to Melbourne?
Yeah, well, depending on experience, obviously, I'd say, if you've got a degree, if you've got a master's, even better. But yeah, you're definitely going to have various different options across the whole of Victoria, really, depending on your experience, depending on your skill set. Choice is a big thing here for candidates. So they do find that they get, experienced candidates get a couple of different offers from different organisations. And yeah, it's just a fantastic position to be in when it comes to negotiating the right roles for people, the right salaries. The choice is definitely there.
Dee, how can Tradewinds help? Why could I not just come to say, can you hear me okay, Dee? Have we lost you?
I had to swap over. Sorry, guys. I can hear you perfectly fine.
This is not TVNZ. This is where we really need to iron out these creases. But Dee, in terms of making that move, we've just talked about the certainty. If you come over to Melbourne, you can get a job. But why Tradewind? Why should people do it through Tradewind? Why, if I'm from New Zealand, I'm a social worker, I've got my degree or master's, why could I not just come over by myself? What can Tradewind add to me as a candidate?
Yeah, look, so I think the thing that Tradewind has that we're known for in amongst the social community service space within the organizations that we work with, as well as the candidates we put out to market, is we we actually get to know you and what you're looking for. What is the things that you want? Is it a case of you don't want to travel more than 5 minutes from home, or you're really looking for an opportunity that speaks to a certain passion of yours that's within the social community service space, and it's not just your typical role. You really want to have a certain aspect to it. We're not just sitting there looking at you as a piece of paper or a number going, oh, well, this person has done this work in the past, so we'll just offer them the same stuff. We want to get to know you. We want to figure out what you actually want, what organizations are going to best suit you and your personality, what managers out there that are going to best use you as an asset to their team. And so, rather than just being treated as a number, we get to know you, we treat you as a person, we take you through step by step everything that is needed to be able to work here, get you set up. Our onboarding team and compliance team is fantastic as far as making sure we've got everything in order for you to be able to work straight away when you do arrive, as much as can be done whilst you're still in New Zealand. But we really treat everybody as individual, gets to know them, not just a piece of paper or a number.
And Sarah, that handover is really critical, isn't it, in terms of what we do at Tradewind, getting to know every person that we want to place, but also getting to know where we're placing them and what they need and who would be a good fit. Often when we're an individual applying for a job, particularly in a different country, in a different setting that we're not used to, we don't know the landscape. There's a large degree of security, isn't it, in terms of having somebody to advocate for you, but also understand that you would be a good fit. Have you got any experiences where that has played out, Sarah?
Just so I understand the question, as in people who've relocated, you mean, who are new to Australia?
Yeah, or even people who are new to the social work space or, not going it alone, have chosen Tradewin to work through, where actually, we've managed to get success based upon that crucial knowledge and relationship that we've built both with the candidates and with the workforce as well.
Sure, absolutely. We have a huge responsibility to make sure we're placing the right candidates with the right organizations. And that's why our compliance team are so stringent. That's why our interview processes are so thorough. We fully take that responsibility on our shoulders. So, and, speaking specifically around COVID, when we were placing people into organizations where, say, they'd be training remotely, they'd be working completely from home, a lot of those candidates that we were placing with those organizations, they were totally going into the unknown. So it was very much about coaching them, consulting basically, and just making sure that they're 100% happy and really holding their hand through that whole process to give them the confidence and the clients the confidence that it's the right match, so we very much take that seriously. And we've had such huge success with organizations with remote working, and also now the transition back to offices. The candidates are just bowled over. They just haven't really looked back. They're just bowled over by how supportive we are and how much we can assist them moving forward into the next steps in their career. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that security is so important, particularly when you're moving somewhere, to have somebody to call, to have somebody to just bounce ideas off, or to have a consultant who is dedicated to you. Dee, you lived in New Zealand for a number of years. Can you tell us, it's a beautiful country, New Zealand. Why would I want to leave if I'm living in New Zealand? Why Melbourne?
Look, everything's bigger and better in Australia. Ian, look, love New Zealand, but look, I mean, the thing about Melbourne that is just world renowned is, look, there's just always something going on in Melbourne. You can go to a different restaurant, bar, cafe every night, every weekend, and you'll never go back to the same place twice if you don't want to. There's music on, there's festivals, there's sports, there's comedy shows, there's whatever you're into. Melbourne's got it, and everything's easy to get to once you're heading downtown and you want to, go out for a night out. Everything, you don't have to go to 6 million different spots. There's, one part of town you can go to, get everything you need, no matter what you're into, whether, you want to go karaoke, you want to do holy moly escape room, you want to go to a nightclub, bar, whatever you want. Melbourne's got multiple options in, every direction for you. Then not too far a drive, you've got snowfields, you've got wineries, you've got seaside escapes. So look, Melbourne's fantastic. You got Tasmania, that's a 45-minute flight. Adelaide's an hour flight. Sydney's only an hour and a half flight. So anywhere you want to go to around Australia as well from Melbourne, just easy access to get everywhere.
Of course, Adelaide is only an hour flight, but you wouldn't want to go there. Maybe
not indeed.
Maybe Sydney at a push, but everything's here in Victoria. Sarah, you made the move from the UK to Melbourne, like myself. What's kept you in Melbourne? What have you been most impressed with since your time in Melbourne?
I moved over in 2017, actually, just towards the end of 2017, and I was really surprised how it didn't really feel like I was on the other side of the world. You know, Melbourne is just so European with the trams, and there's just lots of correlations, especially with Manchester, where I'm from. So I found it really straightforward, and everything was fairly easy to get my head around. There wasn't any big defining kind of culture shock. I find the people a lot friendlier than back home, to be honest. But yeah, job-wise, I think there's more opportunities, and yeah, the culture. I mean, I know obviously there's always been a big influx of, say, Irish and Brits coming over. So, you know, you will always come across people from your hometown, which is always comforting. But yeah, I was just shocked by how easy it was, to be honest. And yeah, obviously I've made a life here and fully settled down. I've got a little boy here now as well. So yeah, no regrets.
Yeah, you went a bit deeper than I thought you were going to there. But Dee, one of the considerations when you're moving from one country to another is cost of living, pay, salary, expectations. I mean, you might be getting paid more, but does that translate into disposable income at the end of the month? How is that comparable to New Zealand?
Yeah, look, so the pay is definitely, higher. Doesn't matter what sector you're working in, aged care, disability, AOD, mental health, family services, whatever it is, the pay is going to be higher in Melbourne. Generally speaking, in Australia, Melbourne's got the highest paying salaries in all those spaces. Now, does it sort of turn out to, being able to save a lot, or, have a lot to spend on the weekend if you want to go out and spend it all? Yeah, look, there's certain things that are the same sort of costs, pretty close as far as, food, groceries. I looked at a New Zealand Countdown website last night. Most of the stuff there, pretty much same as the supermarkets here. Restaurant prices, all that sort of stuff. It's all, it's all same. Rent can maybe be a little bit different. That's where some of the costs you can see a difference, and also for your transportation and costs as well. So petrol's generally a little bit more expensive here. Cars maybe a little bit more expensive. And one thing about, I guess, cars is, do you need a car? Look, Melbourne's got a great public transport system. So it depends on where you want to live, but you're probably best off trying to get a car if possible. It's not 100% necessary as long as you got a license. You can still, most of the places we work with have fleet vehicles available. And as I said, public transport, great. You can get to your job via public transport. Most people I know, though, want a car that when they arrive, so they can get to and from places easier.
Yeah, I didn't have a car for about 9 months when I first arrived 12 years ago. And the reason I bought a car was just so the weekly shop was easier. It was the most expensive outlay just to get the shopping home, because I like potatoes and they're heavy. So, but in terms of those comparisons, moving and renting a place can be a little bit tricky. House sharing is an option, isn't it, Sarah, in terms of, should I be looking at, maybe if I'm serious about the move, looking at real estate websites, maybe looking at house sharing?
Yeah. Well, that is how I found my first house. Yeah, I used a website called Flatmate Finders, and that is just huge. There's plenty of choice, area wise, you can go and kind of get a feel for different areas. You can move around every couple of months if you need to. But as long as you're kind of in that, easily accessible to the metro area, you can't really go wrong. We've got quite distinctive areas, north, south, east, west, and they do vary in price, but I guess they're comparable to UK rent prices. I found it all pretty straightforward, to be honest. And again, like you, I didn't have a car for the first 18 months, I think I was here. So, and public transport's fantastic. Everywhere is pretty well connected. I'd say it's harder to go from east to west in certain areas, but yeah, everything leads to the city, everything leads to the CBD. And then, areas around there are also really well connected. So you wouldn't have to fork out loads and loads of cash to begin with. I guess your biggest expenditure would be a bond, and a month's rent. But again, comparing it to New Zealand, I think for first-time buyers, if you were going to look really far ahead, I think, there's a bit of a housing crisis in New Zealand as well. So if anything, it might even be easier to get on that ladder in Melbourne. I'm not sure.
And Dee, in terms of making the move career-wise, if I'm destined to go back to New Zealand, what's the benefit of me for my career working in Melbourne in the social workspace?
Look, I think the benefit of coming to Melbourne and working within the spaces that we've got here in the sectors is that, number one, you're going to have more opportunities just because the larger size of Melbourne, there's more services, so there's more more organisations out there. There's more chances for people that maybe want to climb the ladder and become team leaders or program managers, and eventually try and run organisations. Obviously, more opportunities here in Melbourne to be able to do that, and running larger organisations as well. So being leaders of, say, larger teams where you've got 5 or 6 different services under you eventually, or something like that. Definitely. Options are more available in Melbourne than they would be in New Zealand.
Excellent. And Sarah, in terms of when you're making that move, what types of jobs are we talking? Part-time, full-time, long-term, 6-month contract, 12-month contracts, ongoing? What's the most common kind of thing that's coming across your desk?
We have got quite a nice variety of options, and we've got a lot more part-time than we definitely did do in the past. But I'd say, 6-month contracts, 12-month contracts are possible. We do have a lot of permanent roles, but we do have lots and lots of locum roles as well. And obviously the way Tradewin social work operate is there's a family services team. They deal primarily with a lot of the family violence and child protection roles. Then there's us on the mental health, who also cover homelessness, housing, AOD, asylum and youth justice. And then there's also aged care and disabilities. So depending on which area you'd want to work within, there's obviously a lot of roles within those. We're always on the lookout for mental health clinicians. We're always on the lookout for mental health nurses. Dee, can you speak to that?
So for the family services team, any child protection workers, family violence workers, they're large on, and for aged care sector, it's either anybody that works in the facilities and case managers within those sectors are what sort of really looking for and shortages of. And most people that have those job titles are looking at potentially multiple opportunities to look over at any one time, that they have a need to look around and see what there is. Speaking of mental health clinicians, if there's one that pops up, they could have 5 different opportunities to choose from before the end of the day.
And if I'm keen to make the move, is there any regulatory body I need to sign up to before I leave New Zealand? What type of things, admin-wise, do I need to get in order before I can make the move so I can start work as soon as possible when I arrive in Melbourne?
Yes, cool. There's a couple of things that people will need to get or know about before coming here. So one of them is called a Working with Children's check. I think New Zealand does have something fairly similar, but it's basically a simple check that you get a card back. It lasts for you for 5 years. Every job in the services has to have it, from admin, receptionists at the front to CEOs and everybody in between. So a Working with Children's check is one. The Australian police check is another. And before leaving, or right as you leave New Zealand, please obtain a New Zealand police check and bring that with you. It makes things a lot easier. When it comes to regulatory bodies, it depends on your qualification. So if you have a Bachelor of Social Work, you are then able to then register and or be eligible and or register with the Australian Association of Social Workers, the AASW. A lot of the funding for those roles just require you to be eligible, not actually have the registration, which is a bit of a difference between New Zealand and Australia. If you have any sort of diploma, there's no regulatory body over here that you need to register with for any sector. If you're an alcohol and drug worker, Victoria does have minimum standards as far as qualifications go, which require you to do the 4 core competencies of alcohol and drugs. It's 4 units that you can do online. It costs about $1,200, and I don't think I've come across any qualification from New Zealand yet that has covered it. Victoria and ACT are the only 2 states that do that, unfortunately. If you do come from the psychologist path or anybody down that direction, APRA, you have to be registered with APRA to be able to work here in Australia. So
Thank
those would
you,
be your
Dee.
regulatory bodies. No worries.
That was a very comprehensive rundown. It's a lot of admin, it sounds like, and terribly boring, but essential before you make the move to get all of those things done.
And sorry, one last thing, APRA and ASW are quite long processes. So if you're wanting to come, within the next 3 months, you need to get on your bike and get onto it. Some of the processes with those guys can honestly take 6, 9, 12 months.
Yeah, and Sarah, in respect to that, if I've got all my paperwork done, I'm on top of it all. How soon can I come to Melbourne? How soon can I expect Tradewind to engage with my future employer, get me work, get me out ready to be on the ground?
Absolutely. Well, most of the clients that we work with, they need bums on seats straight away. So we couldn't have a hypothetical date of your arrival. We'd need to know exactly what date you're getting here and exactly how soon you could start working, because the employer would need to know that date before making an offer. So things do need to be quite fixed and be at that stage where you're confident in when you're going to be settled, you've got everything in order and you're ready to start work, because it will be very, very fast. It's a very fast process indeed.
And Dee, what are the next steps? I've done all of those things. Who should I be getting in touch with? Who should I be reaching out to? I could be somebody who's just tentatively looking and likes the idea of moving to Melbourne. Or I could be someone who's really seriously, definitely moving to Melbourne. Who should I speak to? How does the process work from here on in?
Yes, look, a couple of options for people if you're, say, just maybe starting to think about wanting to make the move and put the feelers out there. Either try and connect with us on LinkedIn, and you'll find the consultant that deals with your sector, and you can start a conversation with them. Otherwise, the other thing to do would be email your CV through to Australia at twrecruitment.com.au or our website. And then we can start the conversation from there around, do you have an arrival date, or when are you thinking of coming? We can chat about, send you some PDs of potential jobs that, might sort of pop up that, once that arrival date is set, we can, explore, I guess, with a bit more certainty. But yeah, basically start our conversation, reaching out to us, send us your CV, have a chat on LinkedIn. Just, let's start the conversation so we can give you, specific options for yourself and, what's going to be suitable for you.
And if I have some friends who also would like to come over, are they welcome to come with me as well? Obviously, I don't have, it's just hypothetical, I don't have any real friends, but Sarah, could I persuade some people to come over with me?
Absolutely, yes. We are always keen to speak to exceptional people. So there'd obviously be a referral bonus in that for you as well, regardless of whether you were working through us or not. But once we successfully place any referrals into a role, you'll be eligible for the referral bonus. So 100%, always keen to introduce ourselves and expand our network further.
Well, Dee, Sarah, thank you so much for sharing all of that information and enlightening me to moving to Melbourne. I'm already here, of course, so I'm one of the sensible ones, but certainly if you're a social worker in New Zealand, please do get in touch through Tradewin's website or the social channels. Would any of you like to add anything else to persuade people to come to Melbourne?
Oh, look, the Queen Vic markets are great, guys. We usually get an state of origin game, once every couple of years as well. Melbourne's great. Just make the move.
Yeah, I think everything's been covered, but looking forward to speaking to you guys. Looking forward to you making contact.
heaps of opportunities, so make sure you get in touch. Tradewind are really experienced in this space, really well respected in the social work industry, so we will certainly look after you. Thanks so much, Steve.
Awesome. No worries. Thanks a lot, guys. Looking forward to seeing you.
Thanks, Sarah.
Thanks, Ian. Have
Sure,
a good
we'll
day,
speak
guys.
soon.